So, welcome back to our season 3 episodes in regards to our new pause from 2020. I think was it from 2020? I can't remember exactly when it was.
Yeah, our last ones were in 2020 for sure.
Yeah. So, since coming up, it's the spring equinox. It's like the official sprung new year version. We thought we just kind of started out with the concept of what Tiara was talking about as we were behind the scenes earlier. If you want to go over the different kinds of moons with us, Tiara.
Oh, yes. Okay, so let me give my little disclaimer first. I am in no way an expert. With me, I would always fact checked. But I think we were pretty close on these. So, but if I make a mistake, let us know in the comments so we can, talk about it. We want to have correct information. However, how I've come to understand the moons, what's coming up is the waxing moon. Yeah, Kate?
The waxing crescent.
The waxing crescent. So when you have your moon cycles, we're waxing or waning, and it's pretty much working its way towards a full moon or a new moon. And that's when the moon's in the sky, but you don't really see it there. And when you're waxing, you're building up energy to fill yourself up, to help you get to the next moon cycle, where then you'll start to release things that no longer serve you, that you just kind of need to let go in order to make it to the next moon cycle, because that's how our bodies work, that's how the earth works, and that's just everything's a cycle. So with us working in the waxing moon, Kate and I wanted to talk about, we actually didn't have ways to fill up. We're going to get there, though. We're going to get there. That was in the notes. Right.
There's an example of where we talked about in regards to one of my mentors' analogies or whiteboard analogies in regards to, because we're heading towards the full moon, I believe, because the new moon's just passed. So the full moon's coming up. And so a lot of times,
waxing.
Yeah, so a lot of times when we're going towards more light, going towards more things to be visible, activating that energy, increasing kind of energy, kind of want to get out the parts that maybe draining us, dragging us down, certain things like that. So a really great analogy that we talked about is the analogy of vomiting, the purpose of vomiting. So great to start out the good purge for the spring equinox. And so in regards to vomiting, right? What exactly is it? What exactly is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? So we kind of talked about that, right, Tiara?
Yes. Sorry, I was making sure. Yeah. Yes, we talked about that. And what I really liked when you brought it up was how you mentioned it was more of a function.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that when, no one likes to vomit. I personally really don't like to vomit.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
It just feels horrible, and even in regards to morning sickness, for my first, it wasn't that bad. I maybe was sick for 10 weeks, but for my second, it was to my 22nd week. And I lost so much weight in the beginning. My doctor was like, we may have to start feeding you through tube because you're losing too much weight, Tiara. But I was trying, I was making all the time. I am the photographer when my clients are I'm struggling with morning sickness. I'm I know popsicle recipes. I know tea recipes. I know all of it because I had to do it. And I tuck peppermint under your tongue. I bring mint and stuff because those were the things that got me through. Mm-hmm. Ginger. But I always think back to why I was throwing up like that. And morning sickness is still one of those things where, there's not too much information to why it happens.
Yeah, there's a running research right now, especially in the fertility world, why does it happen? Is it supposed to happen? Is it normal? So there are a few theories out there in regards to why that is. So one of the theories is the amount of choline that you may be missing in your diet, insufficiency wise. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when people are recommended to eat eggs or take a choline supplement or just insufficiency of vitamins in general. That's also one of the theories. Another theory is when the male sperm is not as healthy of a quality as well, that also presents as morning
Mm-hmm.
sickness for women as well. So that's why it's so important to make sure not only the female is taken care of in regards to like pregnancy, fertility, right, but also the male sperm quality is so important to
Mm-hmm.
make sure they're being taken care of, because a lot of, at least this generation, maybe our generation in general, um, maybe not to like say bad men like that, but a lot of times we hear men are supposed to eat meat and this is what they do, and like all these different masculine things. A lot of times vegetables aren't a big portion unless you're vegan or vegetarian for those males, to where they have plentiful, right, because that's where the vitamins come from. And every 90 days the sperm turns over versus every 120 days the egg turns over. So actually the males, when they make the sperm, there's so much sperm in there, right, that uh, actually make it's within the 90 days versus the 120 days. So they actually make it turn over faster. So it's so important for them to be supplied with the sufficiencies of vitamins, nutrients, and not only that, but sleep, um, water intake, all these different good things for them.
Hmm. I'm because where I was thinking at the beginning of the conversation was, like trying to understand the function of why I was vomiting for, because I know the example you and I used was bad food, like when you get food poisoning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another reason as well.
But to think of, oh, well, I got a story about that, but we're not going to go there. Uh, but to think of morning sickness and, also considering the sperm, it was just interesting because I've been having a conversation with males lately around them being left out of family planning conversations. Like they're pretty much just used as, well, we need his sperm, so we're going to include him, for this part because we need that sperm. But after that, we just going to focus on the mom and the baby. There's not much conversation about even what it's like for the father to be able to connect with the baby during, pregnancy, because mom has that instant connection, not instant, but, she has the baby inside. And so by the time baby comes, there's more connection. And, but then like for dad, there's that saying that moms become parents as soon as they find out they're pregnant, but dads don't until the baby arrives. Because then like mom has a 9-month advantage on dad in connecting with the baby. And then, the whole it grew inside her womb thing,
But guys are the
So,
protectors, right? So they're the protection, making sure that mom's okay. A lot of times,
right.
like that's part is kind of missing to where they're kind of bonding. Yes, even though the mom is bonding with the baby because they're literally inside of her, but the male is there to, I mean, traditionally, right, as a protector, as a person who supports the mom because the mom's growing the baby and doing what she needs to do for that baby.
But then, and yes, I guess the conversations we've been having, and like just in terms of having a healthy dad so that there's healthy pregnancy, and beyond. Um, what if dad needs support in order to support mom?
Mm-hmm.
Like what if dad has some things he needs? I don't feel dads get the same attention as mom gets when it comes to being healthy for pregnancy and given the tools and resources to even understand what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And like how you just brought up, they are traditionally the protectors. That's usually ingrained in a man, a guy, when he's growing up, is, even especially if he has like sisters, you got to protect your sisters, you got to look out for your mom, you're the man of the house, that kind of stuff. So it's like really ingrained in them to be protective. But when they don't have the tools to take care of themselves or even recognize, I need a little bit of support in playing the protective role right now because my health is a little low. We don't have a lot of conversations around that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's more I mean, I hate to like kind of categorizes this, but it's more or less a downfall of very individualized homes and families as of right now. Right?
Mm,
Before we lived in like villages or with a bunch of family members all together, so they kind of imitate or model the ones before them because that's what's going to continue this generation. And so when we don't have that consistent model, consistent you know people to kind of lean on, a lot of times it feels like we're all like by ourselves, so we need to kind of fend for ourselves. Almost as if we're like in a cave all by ourselves with a little immediate family, right? Because that's how houses are kind of set up as well.
you just made me think of the Croods.
I know, that's what I was thinking too as well. Right, they're literally fending for themselves, and whoever is coming that towards their way that's not their family, they just want to push them out, kick them out because they don't know who they are. Versus when you have a society where everyone knows each other, community wise, how they if they barter, do a bartering system, or if they just know each other as a neighbor or as a friend who you hang out with, and then it's more of generations of people of those family on your street or whatever it is. That is almost as a community itself, to where you can depend on each other, where you are answers and issues when it comes up, because like this is what I did for so and so, because that's a generational knowledge, right? That's why acupuncture, Ayurveda, all these different things are and also African medicine as well, right? How these things are passed down to generations because they work, because they live for the environment, because you have that knowledge from so many years ago, and eons even right ago, that it's helped. And then if you don't know the answer, that's what you ask your elders. That's why it's so important to have those elders to rely on and understand and kind of guide depending on the situation. But our society right now doesn't really, I think people are going a little bit more towards that now, the idea of trying to get back to that, but we're still a little bit away to go.
I think that's interesting that you just bring that up because then that for me, that's one of the things that I like to do to actually feel and release is think of my ancestors or even just my family, the generations through my current living family, And it's brought me into a really cool practice of praying, meditating, and journaling. Even exercising is becoming more into that too, which is cool. And I have learned that, okay, so even with yoga, yoga is so interesting to me because I grew up being taught that it was something I should not participate in because it was the work of some evil religion, right? Which is not, right? We know it's not. But that's what I was taught growing up. So I have this like low-key fear of yoga going into it, right? Because I was taught that bad things would happen. And crazily enough, it's been one of the most healing parts of my journey from when yoga was just something I was dabbling in because I've always been really flexible, just naturally. So the flexibility part seemed cool to me to attempt the poses.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I had my first daughter, I couldn't move. Like I was used to doing really intense workouts, like always conditioning, weightlifting, running, like training for marathons and Tough Mudders, right? But after I had my daughter, I couldn't do any of that. And yoga was the thing that helped me get my strength back, but still feel like I was active. And so in the yoga practice, and then adding Reiki and how that's led to more meditation. And I kind of journal just because my mind is all over the place. There are ways in which I do each of those activities to either fill myself up or release things.
Yeah, that awareness is so key, right? Because a lot of times when we're shifting throughout the week, shifting throughout the month, certain times is a good time to fill, certain times a good time to release. So kind of going back to the vomit analogy,
Right.
is that a sign of you're sick or is it that you're well? Because I personally and professionally also believe that your body is really smart, very smart to where it knows what's good for it and what's not good for it. Unless we're dampening it down with certain like medications or other things, or even in our personal thoughts as well,
Mm-hmm.
and dampen down our awareness. And so when we're not aware, when we're trying to shove things, back down or ignoring it or certain things like that, that's kind of shifts or dampens down the signal. And so coughing, sneezing, diarrhea, all those different things, uh, I think it's a sign of health because a lot when you are, for example, going to a nice dinner and go home and then you end up not feeling well and then you end up throwing up, right? So that may be situations where you're not eating, you may eat something that was, that wasn't really sitting well with you in your body, and your body is thinking, no, this is a bad stuff, some bacteria in here. Let's throw this out so it doesn't cause you more issues. And so in a sense, I view it as a sign of health because your body is like, okay, I recognize this as bad, so let's get it out as soon as possible. For example, like coughing is also a reflex. Coughing is a reflex, right? To get the phlegm out, to
Mm-hmm.
get stuff that's stuck in your throat, your chest, whatever it is, to get it out of you, so you don't have that, um, you know, being a hectic havoc into your body.
I like that you talk about it that way because, I've always thought that, not always, think more recently, hanging out with you, I realized that my body does things to protect me. But before that, I would think of if I was coughing, sneezing, oh my gosh, I'm sick. What am I going to do? How am I going to stop it? How am I going to stop my body from doing this thing it's doing to protect itself,
Mhm.
which could be how I end up feeling worse afterwards. And but it does make me think of that feeling worse afterwards part, because I feel from how you're describing it, if it were that I'm healthy and I'm simply performing a bodily function to protect myself, then it should be like I vomit, I get it all out of my system. And it may feel horrible for like a couple of hours and just get it out, get it out, get it out. But then it stops and I'm able to drink some water and I'm able to get some electrolytes in my system. And then I can nibble on something and I'm feeling normal, about 4 or 5 hours later, versus I throw up and for a couple of days, I'm just out of it in bed because my body can't recuperate from having to get that bad food out of my system.
Mhm.
Like, so do you think there is a difference in the two?
So it depends on how, if you vomited all of it out, and a lot of times, I mean, some of the times too, where if it's more than your body can handle. So, for example, for coughing wise, right? And so, what is the significance of coughing? So, like I said, it's a reflex. So, your body almost like a week before or so, before you experience symptoms like sneezing and sniffling, all these different things, a week before that virus, that bacteria already got into you. And so your body's first response is, okay, let's recognize it first from the outer part of the cell. And then when it recognizes saying it's either foreign or it's either good for your body, if it's foreign, it's trying to get rid of it. So it's going to get all the white blood cells, all the different things to try to gobble it up to get it away. When that's not working, it's going to increase the temperature of the environment, have more activity. So when you increase temperature, you have more activity in your body to kind of cook it out in a sense. And then when it's cooked out and things are, the dead cells and debris, it almost collects into your airways in your different parts to where it's trying to clump it up. And when it clumps it up, it either goes out your butt, your butthole, or it goes out the other way, right? Or your skin, wherever it comes out of. But then about a week later from the first time that you had that virus, bacteria, whatever it came in, it's gonna try to cough it out if you didn't burn it off, if you didn't poop it out, if you all these different things. That's why a lot some people are asking, let's do a stool test, let's do whatever, right? Because it comes out into your stools as well, the bacteria, the virus, all these different things. And so if it doesn't come out that way, it doesn't come out from your skin where you see things like, redness, blisters, or whatever it is, dryness as well. It'll come out of your throat, your mouth, your nose. That's the other way out. And so that's why you have coughing, you have certain things that may not feel so good. It feels icky because it's stuck in there, so you can't breathe as well. So you don't feel good. So it takes time for it to literally get it all out. But by the time it gets it all out, then you're good. But the thing is, when you get sick too long, your body is taking too long of a time to get that thing out. So it kind of drags on. And then when you take medications in between that to dampen down the fever, to dampen down the mucus, to dampen down all these different things that your body is normally trying to help you get things out, it's going to take even longer. So when people get ear infections, they're sneezing, they're coughing, they're taking medications for it, that dampens down their immune system to where they're not able to have their body do what it needs to do. And so the last thing, for in the chiropractic world or in any holistic practitioner's world is to make sure that those symptoms are done at a normal pace. But then when it gets dragged on too long, the body almost doesn't know what to do. So it's try to still get it out, but it doesn't have the nutrients and supplies, especially when people are insufficient in their constitution in a sense. They don't have enough supplies, all these different things to get that thing out. So that's one of those reasons. A lot more, but very simply explain that part.
I'm processing because I feel like that was a lot, but that was good information.
I was like, how do I shorten this a little bit more? I could make a one-liner. Next time I'll do a one-liner. But I want to make sure that
no, that was
audience
good.
and everyone else understands like this is the process. What happens when things come in that's bad juju.
But so, and I do think that's all important to know because you're right, especially like me being a mom, if my kid starts to have a runny nose or I see a fever. Well, I will say recently my mom's really good at, did I ever tell you the story when she threw out all the white bread at home?
No.
And I freaked out. I was 11 and she had been researching. I don't know how, because the internet wasn't that popular then, but she had just been reading books and things. She's always been a bookworm and found out that processed sugars are bad for you. So she came home one day, and Kate, when I tell you she threw out all the spaghetti, all the white bread, like all the fruit snacks, all the stuff I loved, she's just gone. And we had to start eating wheat bread. And I was like, what is this disgusting stuff? But she was very aware. So I'm grateful for it now because it helps me to be more aware now. And so recently she has been telling me, hey, if the girls have a bit of a runny nose or fever, just let it play out for a little bit, see how it goes. Don't rush to medicate them. If they're really uncomfortable, then give them some Tylenol, but run them a cool bath kind of thing. But she has been trying to teach me more, I like to call them more gentle ways to help reduce their fevers, more natural ways,
kind of help
so that
where it needs a little bit more help when it needs
right. So their body can move along, but trying to keep baby comfortable.
Yeah, because it's uncomfortable to be all in your throat and everything like that. It's like it's uncomfortable. It's true, and so no mom wants their baby to be very uncomfortable.
Right. So then I was wondering if we're sticking to, if we're talking about knowing when to release energy, knowing when to allow energy to build up, then also knowing when to let your body play out the symptoms. What are remedies to help be as comfortable as possible, especially if we're talking about children, but even for adults, because nobody likes to sit in that. Sitting in discomfort is always uncomfortable, you know?
Uh,
So,
so that part is a little difficult because the thing is, it is uncomfortable to have a lot of phlegm in your throat. It is uncomfortable to cough. It is uncomfortable to sneeze all the time and have allergies, all stuck in there, right?
right.
Thing is about that, our immune system are meant and are born to go through things. That's why when the your baby's first time being sick is almost like a congratulations, because that means your baby's immune system is starting to work by itself. And that's the first time it'll be challenged. And so it's testing the challenge of their how it works. So if they get better fast, that means their immune system is really good. They know how to bounce back pretty quick, because there's some people right now, even adults, they get the sniffles, they get a horrible feeling for 24 hours, and then they're good after that. That means their immune system knows what to do. And that's why when kids are sick for too long, that means their immune system has a trouble time to get that thing through. And so that's why it's so important to find, your practitioners, either homeopathic, chiropractic, functional medicine, whoever it is, to see what is the cause to that's making it harder for your baby, for yourself, to get through that sickness in a sense, or that health challenge. Now, if we don't get sick at all, if we sterilize everything, if we clean everything, every single thing, like in a bubble that you've seen probably in the very, depending which generation you're at, if you've seen the bubble boy or whatever it is, that is almost in a sense that you're not letting the person be challenged to whatever is coming their way for the environment, because things change, germs change, viruses change, things in your environment always change, and the person who uh, can get through that challenge is better after it. That's why when herd immunity is talked about, of how when people get through chicken pox, when they get through certain things like measles by themselves on their own immune system without certain kind of shots, certain things, when that is done, they are so much stronger for whatever comes their way next. And so when we dampen it down for whatever reason, we take that opportunity away from the body to get that challenge, to because nature doesn't do things half-heartedly, or say, oh, let's just see what happens kind of thing. It's done for a reason. If you want to think, bacteria are there for a reason. That's why at least 50% or more of our body is literally made up of that bacteria. So if bacteria is supposed to be a bad thing, then why are we made up of that material? Right? And so that's when the homeostasis, the balance of either you're able to take on the challenge and you're not able to take on the challenge, is relying on that balance. And so talking about how to help them for that. So things like I said, the ones homeopathic, certain things can help, chiropractic can help, or also steamers, misters, humidifiers, or certain
That
things
we've been using.
you utilize their body function more, just making sure they have the supplies and nutrients like vitamin C, all these different things.
Yeah.
That's part of how we are in a sense supposed to live, because our environment as is intended are there for a reason. It's not there for no reason. It's when it's man-made, it's kind of there for no reason. So that's a little bit of a tricky part part there.
You bring up really good points. Like, I love how this really does make you think of balance, because there is a balance to everything. And I think this also goes back to one of our first episodes talking about fear and being afraid of things our body, being conditioned to be afraid of things our body is meant to do to protect us.
So kind of concluding all of that, when we talk about certain things, since the spring equinox is coming up, certain things we need to release, like vomiting, certain things we want to kind of activate or plan out because the energy is kind of like surging. Surging is going up, right? I forget which side's which.
Yeah, no, we're definitely building. We're building, like you said, we're building towards the full moon. So that's how I remember them.
Okay, so when that's happening, we want to do things to kind of help that. So, like I mentioned, certain things, our environment, even the moon, right, is working for us, letting us know kind of what direction to go towards. So, like we mentioned, we have 4 different categories of moms, people in regards to the audience and listeners. And so, first thing to kind of take away from this episode is to be aware of what's going on with your body. So as Tiara mentioned, if you feel like you're a little more tired, if you feel like you're a little bit overwhelmed, right? In our I think behind the scenes when we were talking earlier is being aware of how you are or how you feel and what's going on with your body literally right now. And then starting from there, thinking, okay, what do I need? What do I need to take out? And then the second part of that is when you're talking about the processed sugar and the white bread, which is really processed sugar, is the myth is that sugar is bad for us. Now, there is different versions. Like I mentioned, man-made things are usually driven by desire, driven by demand, driven by money. That's
Mm-hmm.
what you want to break down. And so, the way it's made, certain things that are cheaper to be made are usually from the waste of other factories, other things. That's why it's cheaper. And so, when it's cheaper, usually it's kind of spread out through our society, and it tends to be, the cheaper versions of foods. And so that's why organic supposedly is very expensive because they don't cut away certain things. So when we talk about cutting off sugar, what Tierra is mentioning is the processed sugar because there's other sugars that they could be sweet or non-sweet. Certain things like bitter cranberry juice, red currants, those have certain sugars called mannose in them. There's actually 8 different glyconutrients that we need for our cells to function for them to recognize what's a good or bad bacteria, good or bad virus cell to know exactly what to do. So when you supply yourself with these sugar molecules that are on the outside of the cell, for example, is in aloe vera, green beans, tomatoes, shiitake mushrooms in general, actually, that can actually help your body have those signals to recognize them faster because everything is based on the cell. Everything is based on what's on the outside of the cell. That's how your body recognizes certain things. Is good, bad, foreign to the body. So if you're thinking, okay, I am gonna, start my spring equinox, spring season, something healthy, good after you clean out, your house, whatever it is, knowing the difference between different sugars, different, even cleaning products as well. That's good for your health and not so draining for it as well. Those are really good things. And I think the last part we mentioned in our little behind the scenes
Pre-show.
in the show is there was someone I heard on a different podcast actually. I think he was more of like a plant guy, which is very interesting because he mentioned that our environment plays with literally plays, right? Plays with us and interacts with us so well that even if you're walking on a trail in the forest when you're hiking or even around your house, some things, some weeds, some plants, mushrooms that come up is your body interacting with the environment, knowing your constitution, knowing what you're lacking or not lacking, what to grow for you. So that's why I always when I think of my dream ideal greenhouse, I'm thinking what
Mm-hmm.
I like should I be okay with weeds? Should not be okay with weeds, but I think weeds are there for a reason, right? To create a diversity in your soil because they're not growing for no reason, right? It's there for like how flies aren't there for no reason. Flies are there because the garbage is there. It needs, scavengers or certain things to kind of let the whole thing process. And so when you have certain things like that grow in your forest, like the trail that I think you mentioned, Tiara, the lady that was
with the
walking,
bay leaves.
yeah, how they're collecting bay leaves. Maybe, bay leaves are what she needs, or he or she needs, or family needs as of right now for their diet, for their for their nutrient base. And so those are the very things to take away for this episode. If you're wondering, how do I start this energy, this springtime aspect of life? And so those are a few takeaways.
I love those. And I also want to toss in some other fun ways I feel we could add to our list. When you're building up energy, it's still really good to move your body because it generates energy, especially if you're moving around your hips, a lot of dancing, because that activates your root and sacral chakra and moves it on up to your solar plexus and to your heart. And it's just really good energy. And we have a friend, Adriana from Making Wave Studio. They just celebrated their 1 year of the studio. Did you hear?
Yeah, I know.
So nice. Check them out. We should definitely link them because they do classes, and Zumba is a good way to move your hips, get your energy going. And it, working out also helps you to have more energy through your day. And so I think she even does some morning classes. And Itzel talks about the breath like no other person. And this is a really good time to be intentional about your breath filling up your body and the way you allow it to flow through your body when you exhale. And so if you can ever catch Itzel, she usually does morning clubhouse meditations now. So if you can catch her to do some breath work with her, especially during this time, heck yes. And those are my little energy filling suggestions.
So if you need links and where to find all of these things, we'll link that in our episode. And then if you need a little bit more, talk to us, ask us other topics that you like us to talk about, feel free to contact us through Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, wherever you find us.
Yep. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.